There's my friend Craig Gass. I haven't seen him in forever. Bro, great to see you.
It's so weird. I'm in town and I'm listening to you guys promoting the 20-year anniversary of the show, and I was part of the 10-year anniversary, and you and I took this ridiculous picture with the guys from Bush, and I just someone held my camera phone, and I said, "Let's all do a new band photo," and you instantly like everyone
Well,
what?
you,
I
well,
go,
you directed us. You're like everybody look a different direction. You always do a good job of like
yeah.
your social media is good, and I feel like you know what you want when you want a picture with people, and you kind of directed all of us a little bit.
Yeah, I like to post stuff without saying what it is, so that it doesn't. Sometimes you find yourself in the middle of a situation that if you say, "This is what my situation is," people go, "Oh, what an asshole." But if you don't say what it is, people can figure it out and go, "What the fuck?" Like I remember being at I go to the Super Bowl every year and I interview the players at the Super Bowl every year, and I posted a live video that I streamed, and it said local San Francisco band rehearsing a song about puppets, hashtag not bad. And people were commenting like, what the fuck? Like I didn't say what it was. I just posted it as this vague description, and people, yeah, I love doing shit like that. Dude, so much has happened since the last time I saw you, man.
I
I'm
know. Well, wait a minute. Let me hang on a second. Let me hang on a second.
yeah.
You're in town. You're here in Houston.
Yeah, I'm doing shows at the Secret Group. It's a cool
Okay.
club in downtown Houston. They do comedy. They also do music, and they're having me do two shows on Saturday night at the Secret Group. And it's
Where
gonna.
can people get tickets so we can get that out of the way, and then we'll circle back to it.
You can go to my website, getgas.com, getgas with two S's.com, or you can go to the Secret Group htx.com. I think it's easier to remember, getgas.com, getgas with two
Okay,
S.
we'll send people over to your website. So tickets are still available to see you this Saturday.
Right now, the first show is filling up. The second show, there's still more tickets available for the second show. But yeah, first show looks like it's going to sell out quicker.
All right, so this is my friend Craig Gass. Okay, now I gotta set it up a little bit. Okay, now immediately right off the bat, people are gonna know that your involvement with the Howard Stern show. Okay, you've been doing Howard for a long, long time, but man, like things really escalated in the last couple of years for you and Howard.
After not being on the show for 20 years, he reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in doing work on the show again?" And he has me. I do celebrity voices on the show, and I've always been able to do. For anyone in your audience who doesn't know, I've always been able to do any voice that I hear because of how I grew up. And this is not a joke. This is a true story. Everyone in my family is deaf. My mom,
Yeah.
my dad, and my sister are all completely deaf. People always kind of get serious on me when I say that, but
Well, because we're waiting for a punchline or something. We're waiting because it's the setup of a joke that is not a joke.
yeah, I mean, there's been moments that are like, you know, that I did a show once opening for Metallica. I
Yeah.
did stand-up comedy as an opening act for Metallica. The drummer of Metallica was the guy who got me the gig, Lars Ulrich. He introduced me to his band by saying, "Hey, man, this is Craig. This is the guy who does all the voices. And check it out. His whole family is retarded." I go, "They're not retarded. They're fucking deaf. What the dude? What the fuck? You're fucking my story up." Like, yeah. So there's funny moments that have happened, but yeah, like my sister, I threw a surprise birthday party for my sister a few years ago, and you can argue that anything for deaf people is a surprise, but we threw a surprise birthday party for my sister, and afterwards at dinner, my sister, who's deaf, sitting across the table from me, she's signing to me, and she goes, "Do you want to hear a good joke?" And I said, "Sure." And then she said, "Me too." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's, yeah, growing up in a deaf family, couldn't learn how to talk for my family. Learned how to talk by watching TV and copying all the voices I heard on TV. So to this
Is
day,
there one show, because we're kind of from the same era? Is there one show that was like, or a couple of shows? Like, what were the most influential shows for you? Because we've got Chile on the show, who's from Guatemala, and
mhm.
he learned to speak English originally from watching reruns of American television in Guatemala. So,
Yeah.
what was it for you? Was there a couple of shows that you really you leaned into that you feel like influenced you the most?
It was always the voices that would stand out that would influence my voice at the time. Howard Cosell had a unique voice. The Fonz had a unique voice.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali had a unique voice. So I'd always mimic that. And then to this day, like your voice is very normal sounding. Like you have a great radio voice, but it still has there's nothing quirky. There's nothing to like, I feel like to latch on to, like, except for your rhythm. I think I could probably figure out your rhythm. But guys like Christopher Walken has a real stop and go kind of voice where he'll talk every once in a while. He'll stop and then he'll keep going. You know, it's like that. It's easier to figure out that stuff. Or Adam Sandler, it's easier to find like a weird sound than it is to hit a normal one like yours, you know?
But let me ask you about like, okay, so now we're talking about like dissecting a specific voice. Does it take one person? And I don't know if it goes back to Jay Moore. I don't know if anybody was really doing Walken before that, but I look at a guy like Jay Moore and it takes, and tell me if this is true, for a voice, it takes somebody to crack the code.
100%.
Somebody has to unlock it to say, okay, we're going to try this. Even if you go back to, I think Andy Kaufman may be down in the history books as the first Elvis impersonator. I don't know if there were, I don't know that there were Elvis impersonators. He didn't look like Elvis. He didn't really necessarily sound like him, but he did it. Yeah. So it takes somebody to crack the code. So is there people that, okay, let's talk about Christopher Walken. Is there somebody that cracked the code and then everybody is basing it off of how that was done?
The first person I ever heard do it, and it was flawless, was Kevin Spacey.
Okay.
Kevin Spacey did a Christopher Walken on SNL that was so good, the crowd exploded in what sounded like a standing ovation in the middle of the impression. It was so spot on, which makes me embarrassed to even try to do that impression. But I remember hearing a guy do an Al Pacino impression, and I've talked about this with other comedians who do impressions. When someone does a half-assed impression, it's almost like they're laying down the groundwork for, like, you just put one hand here and put one foot here. It's like, oh, and then I can finish it when I see someone do a half-assed impression. So this guy I saw doing a Al Pacino impression, it sounded like Archie Bunker. It was like, geez, this guy right here, huh? And then I just realized if you head towards Archie Bunker and just get a little bit lower, my God, I found gold. There's something about laying out that groundwork that other people who do impressions can finish it, you know?
Yeah. Now, because, okay, we're going to get into, because, you know, I mean, I got the shirt on and everything. This was not planned at all. This just happens to be a Wednesday shirt for me. But like Al Pacino, I call Craig like the Forrest Gump of comedy. Okay. If you go to Craig's Instagram, it's Craig Gass Comedy. You'll see him, like he said, at the Super Bowl asking Tom Brady a question. Then he's hanging out with the Stanley Cup. Then he's at a World Series and he's watching the game and Bill Murray's in front of him and Eddie Vedder's to his left and Smashing Pumpkins are to the right and John Cusack is right in front of him. He's in the right place at the right time. I'm talking about you. You're in the right place at the right time. It's amazing to me that you're living at one point in your life, you're living at Eddie Van Halen's guest house, like you're Eddie Van Halen's Kato Kalin. And then you got Mike McCready on speed dial from Pearl Jam. This guy is everywhere. He's everywhere at the same time. And that's amazing to me. So when you do something like Al Pacino, have you come in contact with him? I'm just assuming that you guys like eat at Nobu together or something.
No, I was contacted by, what was the name of that? Vivendi Entertainment is a video game company, and they were making a Scarface video game, and they contacted me about doing the voice of Scarface, of Al Pacino for Scarface. And we had a couple of discussions, and they said, we're having a lot of creative meetings at this point, but Al recommended that we go to you to do the voice. And I said, oh, that's great. And who is Al? What does Al do? And he said, it's Al Pacino. And I said, Al.
Al
Pacino knows who I am. And the guy said, you know what, Craig, I wouldn't get that excited about it. The way it came up is he said, there's a guy, what's his name? He's got a funny mole on his face. David
uh, grass. Find him. He can do the voice the way it was meant to be.
And that was like, when I heard that, I was like, well, that's not the story I'm going to tell people. I'm going to tell people that Al Pacino's my biggest fan. And like, we've never met. He knows who I am, but we've never met in person. Almost everyone I do an impression of has tried to meet me at some point. Dude, there's a guy I do an impression of that, Tom Arnold, believe it or not.
It's one of my favorites that you do because you seamlessly go in and out of it so easily. And there's some that you do that are easier than others, I can tell. And Tom Arnold, the way that you slip into it and slip out of it, like your Gene Simmons, and like there's some of your like marquee ones, but the Tom Arnold one is just nails.
Tom Arnold is a guy who I met on the phone. I prank called him once. He picked up the phone. I found out a comedian friend of mine, this is when I was still an open micer. There was a comedian I knew who worked at a hotel in Seattle, and he said, dude, all the stars for the Planet Hollywood are staying at my hotel. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Tom Arnold. And I went, Tom Arnold is staying at your hotel? And he goes, yeah, he's at my... And at the time, Tom Arnold had just killed it in True Lies and 9 Months. So I went
Tom Arnold was a big, big star, man.
Huge, funny dude, a great comic actor. And so I called the hotel and I said, hi, Tom Arnold, please. And they said, okay, just one moment. And they put me through. Tom Arnold picked up the phone and he goes, hello. And I said, Tom, it's Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison had been dead for 8 years at this point. And Tom Arnold goes, hey, buddy, how you been? He fucking just started talking like I was Sam. I said, Tom, I need some help. I need you to help me here in the afterlife. And he goes, whatever you need, buddy. Just tell me what you need. And I said, well, what I need is I need you to get me some cocaine. So this is kind of tricky. First of all, I need you to front me the cash. And then I want you to purchase some cocaine. Then I want you to get on a plane and go back to Los Angeles. And when you go to Los Angeles, I want you to drive to Jerry Lewis's house. And when you drive to his house, I want you to take the cocaine and I want you to put it in the small pocket of his pants, and I'll have it when he gets here in 3 weeks. Oh! And then I stopped and said, Tom, I'm sorry. My name's Craig Gass. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a huge fan of yours. And he said, man, that impression is so good that I need to call my sponsor. That's how good that is. That's a good impression. And so repeating that story over and over again, I started getting the impression down, and which is how I get most of my voices down, is I tell stories about those people. And I just, like, if I tell a story about you later on today, I will end up doing some half-ass impression of you in the middle of that story. I do want to point out one crazy thing when you point out my social media. Dude, this is a story I've been dying to tell you. At the top of my Instagram page is a story that is insane. There is a prank being played right now on our guy, Gavin from Bush.
Okay.
That is fucking nuts. The backstory is the guy playing the prank on him is a guy who loves my stand-up comedy and was inspired by a terrible, terrible story that I tell on stage, that I'm not supposed to tell the story because the guy who told me the story said, dude, don't tell people about this. So I've just eliminated all the names from the story. But it's a friend of mine who's in one of the biggest hard rock bands of all time. And he was doing a festival tour. His band was doing a festival tour of Europe. The headliner of the tour was AC/DC. The singer of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, walks into the band's dressing room to say hello. The band, naked. They're getting ready to go on stage. So they want to put on their cool stage clothes.
Right.
And Brian Johnson, apparently a really warm guy. He's standing in the entrance to the dressing room and he's socializing with everybody and he's making eye contact and working the room. And then at one point he looks over at the drummer and he starts staring at the drummer before he finally walks over and goes, hey man, did you know you've got a giant penis on your fucking back, man?
So we know who this band is now, right? The drummer, Big Wiener. Come on.
Nobody knows who the drummer is. Nobody knows who the drummer is.
I do. I just heard the story for the first time. I'm telling you who it is.
Dude, the singer, Brian Johnson, says, yes, you have a big penis on your back. And the drummer looks at him and goes, what are you talking about? And he goes, your fucking tattoo. It's a giant penis. And the drummer goes, it's a dragon. It's an angry dragon. He goes, I know it's a dragon, but look, you got two balls on the bottom and you got a big dick head on top. Now the whole band is looking at the drummer going, holy shit, dude, hold on, hold on. Wait, hold on, come here. And they're all taking pictures and they're showing him like, see how if you zoom in, it looks like a big penis and you got two balls on the bottom. Now he's looking at the tattoo for the first time going, what the fuck? When his singer looks at him and goes, dude, I'm not trying to be an asshole, okay? I'm really looking at your tattoo for the first time and I gotta be honest. It does not look like your dragon is breathing fire. It looks like it's shooting all over your back. Now he thinks they're fucking with him, and he goes, "Shut up! Come on, it's time to go on stage. Let's go rock. I'm gonna put my shirt on. But he knows what he saw, so he's on stage in front of 60,000 people, just freaking out about what happened. The next day he calls, and when he calls the tattoo, he goes, "Hey, we got a lot of complaints about that guy. All right." Apparently he was putting dicks on everybody, and we actually sat him down. We sat him down and said, "Hey, be honest. Be honest. Are you putting penises on people? What are you doing?" And he said, "Can I make a phone call?" And we said, "Go ahead." And he fled. He just, this is my favorite line of the story. This fucking guy left a trail of dicks everywhere. But listen, next time you come back in, we'll cover up, no charge. So he's got to go back to his band the next day, walks in, the band is like asking him questions. "Dude, how did you end up with that tattoo?" And he goes, "Dude, I don't know. He was my boy. That guy was my friend. Like, he did a couple of my tattoos, but we used to party together." And someone who was paying attention said, "A couple of your tattoos?" And he goes, "Yeah. I thought he just did the dragon." And he goes, "No, he did my dragon, but he also did Jesus on my leg. He did." And the whole room just froze, and he goes, so without getting too graphic, I'll just say it turns out he had a tattoo of Jesus, and Jesus was very happy.
Come on.
100% true. So, and by the way, if you come out to the secret group this weekend, I'll tell you who the band is, and I'll give you a more uncensored version of the story if you come out to the secret.
All right, because that you sucked me in on that. I'm thinking, okay, band, huge rock band. I'm like, big wiener, drummer. I'm like, okay, it's Motley Crue. It's Tommy Lee. But Tommy Lee does not have a dragon tattoo.
No. So that's the story that inspired a man who makes guitars for all these famous artists. That guy makes guitars for Adam Levine. And I get a call from him saying, "Dude, the most fucked up thing just happened. Adam Levine had some specs for a new guitar he wanted me to make for him. I make the guitar and I have fun with the guitar and I send it over. And I don't hear from them. 2 months goes by. I don't hear from them. And I call the guitar tech and I go, "Hey man, did you get that guitar?" And the guy said, "Oh yeah, dude, Adam loves it. It's his favorite guitar. Dude. He plays it every night on stage." And I went, "Did you look at the guitar?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, it's got the flowers." And he goes, "Dude, I feel really bad. Those are not flowers." Like, you know that comedian Craig Gass that has that story? Like, dude, it's on my Instagram.
It's dicks.
Dude, the guitar is covered in dicks. There are dicks all over. So here's the guitar.
Okay, I'm looking at it.
Okay, he's playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Then the next thing over is I have a picture of what the guitar looks like from the guitar tech. Or not
okay, that's the back of the guitar, and it's pink with some flowers on it.
Now you start zooming in and you realize
dicks.
It's supposed to be sunflowers. The sunflowers are hairy balls, and it's just dicks. There's just dicks. It's covered in dicks. At Craig Gass Comedy on my Instagram, at Craig Gass Comedy with 2 S's.
That's awesome.
Oh, dude, it's covered in dicks. I love that we can have a conversation like this where I don't have to worry about censoring myself, so I could just tell a story like that. And yeah, dude, that's what these kind of interviews are.
That's awesome. I'm looking at it right now on your Instagram. You know, they would, the comic guys would do this. Apparently, there's some hidden dicks in some of those old VHS covers of some Disney movies.
Yes.
Lion King. There's a dick in Lion King, apparently. I mean, if you look for this stuff, you can find it. I had a buddy that used to carve leather. And he used to make belts. He was doing it out in LA. He would make these beautiful belts, and he made like a bunch of guitar straps for Monkey from Korn and stuff. And he would always put, because when you start getting all these crazy designs, he would put dicks in there. Or I'm like, can I have a belt, but no dicks, please? And then, so I made him promise that there'd be no dicks on the belt. And then when you look at it, it's like, there's a couple of titties in there. And I'm like, okay, you didn't say no titties. So I got titties on my belt, but no dicks at least. Craig Gass is the man right here. He's in Houston, the secret group. You go to Craig Gass's website, and that's where you're going to get tickets to go see him this Saturday. He's got 2 shows coming up with the secret group. I saw Gene Simmons. You put a clip up. Speaking of your Instagram, Gene was on with Steve O. Steve O does a pretty good podcast these days, and it's a really good one. Really good. He's a really good interviewer, and he's got Gene Simmons on. Your name comes up, obviously, and Gene says, I tolerate the prick. Yeah. That's a pretty great compliment. I know you're friendly with those guys. Now, is Paul? Gene seems to be cool with you and your impression of him because you were at the Gene Simmons roast. The Paul one is a little brutal, which it's funny though. It's like when we go back, like you, I believe, cracked the code on that for sure. There's nobody doing a Paul Stanley. There might be a few people doing a Gene Simmons, none like yours, but you absolutely are ground zero for Paul. Is he cool with it?
No.
It's not flattering.
We did a charity event in Detroit last December, and he had me do my impression for this charity event. He goes, "Do Gene," and I go, "Hi, this is Gene Simmons," and he goes, "All right, now do me," and I go, "Hey everybody, this is Paul Stanley," and he goes, "You make me sound like I own a hair salon in Long Island," and I was like, "Whoa, I never even. That's a great premise. Come on in, I'll give you a blowout. Sit down. Welcome to Paul Stanley's hair salon." Like, that was such a great premise that he handed me. But yeah, I think there are 2 Paul Stanleys. There's offstage Paul Stanley, who's really soft and answered a question once by saying, a lot of bands are envious of Kiss. I'm even envious of Kiss. And I was like, God damn, that is some confidence I wish I had. And then there's onstage Paul Stanley, where I actually heard him say in Las Vegas, "All right, people, now listen. I know this town, Las Vegas, is known for its buffets. And I can tell you right now after this show, I see a lot of people in the front row that I really want to eat." And then he started fixing his hair, and I went, what the fuck? Same tour, 4 weeks later, New York City, and I bring a bunch of comedians with me. Jeff Ross, Jim Norton, and Steve Byrne. We all go backstage at the show at Madison Square Garden. And I'm introducing them to all the people that work for KISS. And anybody who works for KISS, I go, "Hey, were you listening in Las Vegas when Paul said he was going to eat the front row?" 3 different guys that work for KISS said, "Did you hear what he said in Omaha?" And I went, "No. Ask about Omaha." And apparently on stage in Omaha, Paul Stanley was in the middle of a stage rap said, "All right, people, now listen. I know this town, Omaha, Nebraska, is known for its Angus beef. And I can tell you right now after this show, I'm going to want to sink my teeth into some meat." And the whole crowd went, "What?" And apparently Paul grabbed the microphone and went, "Now, wait a minute. Hold on. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a thigh or a rump roast." And the crowd went, "What?" And
you're not helping. You're not helping yourself.
Yeah, exactly. The guitar techs behind the stage were going, "What the fuck's going on up there?" Like, yeah. So there is a wonderful relationship that started when Gene Simmons confronted me about my impression of him on the Howard Stern show. The next day, I got a phone call from their management company, which is McGee Entertainment, and they said, "Hey, we just wanted to call you. We represent KISS, and we wanted to let you know that our singer, Paul Stanley, is your biggest fan." And I said, "Get the fuck out of it." And they said, "No, he loves you. In fact, don't tell anybody this, but Paul Stanley loves when anybody makes fun of Gene Simmons." And I said, "Are you serious?" And they said, "Yeah, he's actually going to call you today." He called me that day and offered me a gig to perform with KISS on an event called the KISS Cruise, which when he asked me to do the gig, I was like, "Yeah, do you want me to do stand-up? You want me to introduce the band?" And he said, "Well, let me ask you a question. How many jokes do you have about Gene?" And I said, "Literally hours." And he went, "You got the gig." And I ended up on a boat with KISS. Rod, do you know that the KISS fans are actually mad at me because of what I did on the boat? Do you know that story?
Is this wait? If it involves you making an announcement
Mm-hmm.
into everybody's cabin, tell it. It's funny.
I
It's so
first day on
great.
the ship, I meet this girl who's the cruise director. She goes, "Wait a minute, are you Craig? You're the comedian. You're the one who does all the voices with the Family Guy and the. Do you want to do a funny announcement on the ship tomorrow morning?" And I went, "Oh, fuck yeah! Let me ask you a question. If I make an announcement on the ship, who's going to hear it?" And she said, "Well, if you want, we can flip a switch and it'll get piped into every cabin." And I said, "Flip that switch. I know exactly what I want everyone to wake up to tomorrow morning." The next morning, 3,000 of the biggest Kiss fans in the world woke up to Bing Bong. Hey, everybody, this is Paul Stanley. And this is Gene Simmons from Kiss. And we have a very important announcement. Do not panic. We have a very important announcement about the Kiss cruise. At that moment, my friends on the ship said that all the fans had stopped and were looking at the speakers and smiling until the next words that came out of my mouth. We've just hit an iceberg, which, keep in mind, when I say we just hit an iceberg, we're in the middle of the fucking Bahamas. There's no reason for you as an intelligent person to go, this ship's going down. We're in the Bahamas. But do not panic because Kiss is going to take care of everybody. We actually have 3 packages to get you off the ship. First, we have the platinum package.
Like Gene's going to charge. So Gene's going to try to monetize getting people off the ship.
To save your life, you can actually spend money on tiers. And it was so ridiculous. There was like a diamond package where we throw you in the ocean and then Kiss floats by on a raft. We do a private acoustic show. Everything was just ridiculous. But not so ridiculous that a couple of Kiss fans didn't stop the employees and go, so Kiss is going to charge us to get off the boat? They actually believed that Kiss was actually capable of charging people to get off of a sinking ship.
It's like Kiss War of the Worlds you had going on. Like you fooled everyone.
Absolutely was. I'm putting out 2 comedy specials later this year. The first one, no bullshit. It's just me making fun of Kiss for an hour. That's the whole show. And then at the end of the year, I'm putting out a more traditional comedy special talking about my mom and some good stories there. But,
so what kind of platform? Because, geez, I mean, stuff is everywhere now. And it's just, you got to go searching for these things. There's so many different apps and platforms and everything. Where will these things, I mean, are you shopping these things right now, or do you know where they're going to land?
There's a couple of production companies that want to help me shop it. I already have an offer from Mark Cuban's Access channel for the Kiss one. And we're still editing, and then we're going to take it out and shop it and try to get it in the best place. And you're right. It's like there's so many places to find. I mean, I know I have friends who just put stuff on YouTube and just have their other friends just announce, hey, my buddy's comedy specials on YouTube, and they'll get like 1 million views within a couple of weeks, So
yeah,
it's
the Wild West out there for you guys. But it's a good time though, too, right? I mean, with all those different avenues, I mean, for the hustlers out there, people up and coming, geez, it's never been better.
Dude, I just did my first arena tour last year with Russell Peters. We did an arena tour across Australia and New Zealand, and comedy has never been bigger. It's insane. There are more comedians, just one lone comedian, who can fill an arena more than there are a single music act that can fill an arena. There's more comedians right now. There's dozens of comedians that can sell out an arena. And any music act needs multiple support groups to be able to do it. It's like, yeah, we're going to go see this band, but it's this band with this band.
But you know what's interesting, and you know this because you came up in this era. We're not in that era where they're just passing out sitcoms anymore to comedians. That was the way for about 10, almost 15 years, go back to Seinfeld and then all the different shows. Everybody was a stand-up comedian worth getting a TV show. They don't need that anymore, okay? They don't need it anymore because all you got to do is go out and self-promote. Now, it's still hard. You got to hustle. You still got to work. But, the grassroots of what you guys can do now, I guess it's the same with musicians, too. I mean, so many kids that I talk to, even in these young bands, they're not trying like when you and I were young, you were thinking that they got to get a contract and you got to get signed by a label. And most of these bands, they don't care about that. They're like, no, we'll do it on our own. We want all the money. We don't want to owe anybody money and sign with someone. These are our songs. We believe in them and we're going to make it on our own. Same thing with comedians.
Yeah, same thing with stand-up comedy, where there were gatekeepers that would allow you into networks to have deals. And Dane Cook was the first one to break that mold. He just put his own thing together on social media and just started building this new business model that other comedians have taken and just ran with. And now comedians make way more money, way more money than any sitcom star ever did. It's bananas.
I mean, look at Saturday Night Live, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people watching this. They're going to say, okay, well, Nate Bargatze, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Okay,
Yep.
he's huge. That guy could walk down the street and not one person mention him. He hosted Saturday Night Live, which is still a big deal, which is still the Wheaties box, which is
Mhm.
still a marquee event in any actor comedian's life and musician still to this day. He, some of these unknown guys that they're known because, like you said, they're playing these big, huge arena shows now, and now they're working their way up. Shane Gillis,
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't know who these people were when they hosted SNL.
It's crazy how many people are able to sell out a big room that still a lot of people don't know about. And that's exactly it. It's crazy, but it's exciting. And yeah, Saturday Night Live is still the goal. I used to write
Is
for
that
Weekend Up.
is that your Wheaties box still? I mean, is that it?
Yeah, I
SNL?
I wrote for Weekend Update for a couple years when Colin Quinn was still doing Weekend Update '98 till 2000, and yeah, I think that's still a thing. But I also got great stories out of just being around it. That's where all my Tracy Morgan stories were from. And there's one Tracy Morgan story I tried to tell on your show once that you dumped, and you had to because it was too bad. And can I just retell that story for you? It's a
Because you
short.
probably wanted to make a butt baby with somebody, and it probably went too far. If I know you, the
It
Tracy
was a
Morgan
guy.
stuff, because Tracy Morgan, you portray him as the horniest guy on the planet. It's so funny.
Dude, and it's because of all my run-ins with him. So the story was this agent runs up to me. I'm getting ready to go on stage. I'm gonna open for Dave Chappelle at Caroline's, and this agent runs up and goes, "Hey, did you hear about that party last weekend?" I go, "Did I hear about what?" And he goes, "Did you hear about that fucking party last weekend?" I go, "No, what party?" And he goes, "Tracy Morgan had a party, turned into a fucking orgy." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Turned into a fucking. We're standing around with our suits on, and there's naked people just fucking." And I remember looking at him going, "Fucking like that?" And he goes, "No, no, like that." And then Tracy Morgan comes around, takes off all his clothes, and he jumps in. And I go, "What? When was this?" And he said, "Last Saturday night." Right at that moment, Tracy Morgan walks around the corner. I haven't seen Tracy in probably a year at this point. I looked over and I went, "Tracy, I heard your party was fucked up, man." Tracy Morgan just looks at me and just eyeballs me before he finally says, "It was crazy. It was crazy, Craig. You know what's crazy about it? When you get off on my floor, you don't even hear nothing. You don't hear nothing at all. Then you start walking towards my apartment, but you still don't hear nothing. Then you knock on my door, but you still don't hear nothing, right? And when I open the door, there's buttholes and toes everywhere." And I went, "What the fuck?" And just because I've never heard that phrase before, I said, "Did you just say buttholes and toes?" And Tracy Morgan said, "Yeah." Before he added, "Some of them toes were in the buttholes." And he walked out of the room. I tried to tell that story on your show, and you were like, "Are you fucking crazy?" And I was like, "All right, sorry. I thought I could censor that. I thought I could censor that." But yeah, dude.
Listen, tell me, just give me a quick update on what you're doing with Stern right now. How often are you on? Is it a regular thing? Does that guy work during the summer? I don't know anything about his
No,
schedule. I want it, but I don't know how he gets it done.
he's in the middle of a 10-week vacation right now. And he has me on every other month where I sit in for a week. And his weeks, by the way, are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's a full week for Howard.
Wow.
And my last time that I was on with him, though, he brought me in to talk as myself for a little while. And we actually, it was just like old times. It felt great. And so I've been doing pre-interviews with his team to come on as a guest. So it seems to be pointing in the direction that I'm going to continue to do celebrity voices on the show, but also do stuff as myself on the show as well. I'll find out when we get back from vacation,
Okay.
September. And two comedy specials coming out. The first one's about just me making fun of Kiss. The other one's a more traditional one later at the end of the year. And then I am going to be performing this weekend in Houston. It's the whole reason I'm here is at the Secret Group this weekend. On Saturday night, we're going to do two shows. And all the tickets are at getgas.com. It's getgas with two S's.com. And dude, you've always been incredibly nice to me. And from the very first time we ever hung out in Houston, I remember one time being in New Orleans and I thought you were in New Orleans. And you wrote me this long email like, dude, oh man, I don't live there. I love this stuff. This is great. I love, but I don't live there. And then when I finally got to see you in person, you invited me out. You invited me to your home, and you've always been incredibly hospitable. And I can't tell you enough when you travel and you feel a disconnect as you're traveling because you don't know people in these cities you go to. It really means a lot when someone is that kind to you that they invite you into your home. And I've always been appreciative of that. And I want to say thank you for that.
Well, man, thank you, man. You've always been awesome. And yeah, you've been a great friend over the years and continued success. It's great having you on. I'm so glad you're back here in Houston. We'll send people over to the website. And dude, don't put so much time in between coming to see us in Houston, you know?
I know. I can't wait to come back. There's so many more stories that I have for you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back. Getgas.com. Hopefully it won't be a couple of years before I come back again. But we got 2 shows this weekend, Secret Group. And you can go to the Secret Group's website, thesecretgrouphtx.com, or I think it's easier to remember, getgas.com, getgas with 2 S's.com. And look at all that weird shit on my Instagram. There's so many weird things on there. It's just Easter eggs everywhere. And dicks. There's lots of dicks with that name. And that's Craig Gass Comedy, at Craig Gass Comedy with 2 S's. Thank you, Rod. I love you.
All right, man. Thank you, my brother, man. Take care.